All right, guys. Well, what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how to make something shoot. Like I have done with you in previous videos, what I'm going to do here is show you everything you're going to need to know and suggest some places where you pause and do some of the work on your own. As with the previous video, what I'd suggest you do is you have this open on one side, it'll be on YouTube, and then have Scratch open in another window and then flip back and forth as you need to. This is not designed for you to watch all the way through and then come back and do pieces along the way. It's designed for you to pause, rewind, move around as much as you need. So take your time, pause, do whatever you need to get this done. Okay? All right. So what we're going to do first is we're going to make a bullet, something that's going to be able to shoot. So what I'd like to do first is get rid of my little cat, but I'm going to create a new sprite by painting. So here, click on the sprite. Boop. Okay. And then in the new sprite here, why don't I zoom in just a little bit? We're just going to make a little square. I'm not going to make anything too spectacular. The pellets or the bullets or whatever you want to call them are not going to be gigantic. It is very important that you make the bullet go right over the cross here. Remember we talked about the middle before? This is going to be very important for our bullets and actually for the gun, whatever we're going to shoot with. Okay? So let me get my little square here, and I will just make a little bullet. Now notice that the square completely encompasses the cross. Boom. And my particular one here is empty, so I'm actually going to fill it in, and I'll fill it in with black. Okay. Okay. So there I got my little projectile. It's a bit big, but that's okay. We can change the size later on. All right. Now it is very important that we name this because at some point you may have multiple bullets or pellets. So what I'm going to call this is Pellet 1. Okay. This would be a good place to stop. Make sure that you have your pellet. Make sure it's not too big and put it on the screen. Okay. So now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to get rid of the other sprite because the cat's not going to do anything for us here. I'm going to put my pellet right here, and I'm going to make him move. So this, so what we're going to do is go into scripts. Okay. I'm going to put an event, and as I usually do, I'm going to say that when the spacebar is pressed, that starts the game. So nothing will happen until the spacebar is pressed. So that really starts the game up. And then I'm going to go to control, and I'm going to put in a forever. Okay. And what's going to happen is when I press the S key, S for shoot, the bullet's going to go this way. Okay. So my gun is going to be over here, and the bullet is going to shoot in that direction. Okay. So I'm going to put an if in. And then within the if, we have to determine if the S key is pressed. Okay. So what I will do here, let's get an event. All right, let's get sensing. Where is it? S. Okay, key. Okay. And we're going to go to the S for shooting. Okay. So if the S key is pressed, then I'm going to have it go to a particular location. Okay? Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use motion. Okay? And then I'm going to do a go to. I'm sorry, not a go to. I'm going to do a glide just so we can see what it looks like first. So I'm going to give it 1 second. Let's give it 2 seconds just to see how fast that goes. Okay, and I'm going to have it shoot straight across. So right now it's located at 174.11, and we want to move it across in the X. So let's say the X goes to 250. Okay, so let's read our code. When space is pressed, forever, check to see if the S is pressed, and then glide for 2 seconds and go forward. Okay? Okay, now likely we're going to change this code later on, but I just want you to see how it looks. So if I press the space bar and I hit the S, it goes across. Now it is going very, very fast, which is fine, or it's going very, very slow. That's fine. As we know, we can slow it down, or we can speed it up by changing the amount of time it takes. So here, let me stop it. Let me put it back to the beginning. Okay, and then let me press the S again, or press the space bar, and then the S. And that goes a little bit faster. So that looks a little bit better to me. Okay, so this would be a good opportunity for you to stop here, get your code working, and make sure that the bullet is moving across. Okay, now in order for this to work correctly, we're going to have to add a few things, and we're going to have to change things up. Okay, so first off, let's go back to the beginning and find an initial location. So let's put it right about there. Now it's at 174.7. I can see this down here. What I want to do is make sure that I start in the right location. The other thing I want to have happen is I want this number, I want the Y's to match up, otherwise it's going to shoot up or down. So here, let me show you what I'm talking about. If I change this number to say 25, notice that, or I'm sorry, let's do 75. If this number's 7 and this number's 75, let's watch what happens now. So just to explain before I go too far here, the space bar starts the game. Then we have this go to. This go to will put the bullet right in the initial position. So if I press the space bar, the bullet goes back to the beginning. Okay, does that make sense? And then what ends up happening is that I'm going to shoot it. If the Y doesn't match up, then the gun's going to shoot in the wrong direction. Okay, so here's what I'll do. I'll hit the space bar again, I'll start the game, and I'll press S, and you'll notice, oh, it shot up instead of straight. Now this may be something you want to do later on, but for us, we don't want to do that. We want it to be straight. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this back to 7 so they match up. We're going to hit the space, oops, we'll hit the space bar again, and we'll press S, and now it's going straight. Okay, so as with the other things that we've done through class, it's very important to put this guy in the right location so that he shoots correctly. Okay, so put him in the beginning spot and then have him shoot. All right, I'll give you a second there to clean up your code, and we'll go from there. Okay, now just shooting a straight line sounds great, but we have some problems here. What happens if we need to move our guy? So this is where we're going to change things up a little bit, and we're going to give ourselves some ability to do other things with the bullet, or the pellet. I called it a pellet here. So with the pellet, what we'll do is, again, we'll put it back at the beginning, but we want the pellet to move up and down. Since the pellet's going to move up and down, this particular code that we have doesn't really work. Okay, we're gonna talk about a new variable. It's called a flag. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to go to data, and I'd like you to make a variable. And this variable you're going to call flag. Okay? And when I talk about a flag, we don't need to show the flag. We don't need that. Okay? That won't be important to us. Excuse me. We're going to make this flag tell us if the game has started. Okay? So kind of like we did with broadcast before, flag is going to say, it's going to be like a race. You know, when you have a car race, and the flag goes down, that means the race can start. Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to change things up a little bit. So here, let me stop the code. I'm going to have the space here. So the first thing I'm going to do is set flag to 1. Okay? All right? So normally, well, let me think for a second here. Oh, that's fine. Okay? Okay, so when the game ends, we're going to have to set the flag to 0. But let's start here by setting the flag to 1. Okay, so let's set the flag to 1, and then what ends up happening here is that tells us that the game has started. So here I'll put the flag back up here, and then if I press the space bar, notice it goes to 1. All right, that's fine. Just to make life a little bit easier, let's set this back to 0. Press the space. Oops, stop. And press the space, and now you can see that the flag is set to 0. Which is important. Okay, let me change the code back to 1. And I'm going to get another event here. I'm going to put it out here, and I'm going to say if I press, let's say E. If I press E, that ends the game. Okay, so I press E, and I set the flag to 0. So this is very important. If I press the space bar, flag is set to 1. If I press the E button, flag is set to 0. Okay, so start, end, and then I have my shooting. Okay, so I'm going to get another event out here, and I'm going to bring this out, and I'm going to say when whatever is pressed. Okay, and this time I'm going to change it to S. So when S is pressed. When S is pressed, then what I want to do is I want to glide to that particular position. Okay, so I've ripped up this code right here, and we're basically replacing this forever, where I have the if checking on the S. We're going to get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. Bye-bye. We'll deal with the goto in just a minute. But what I'm saying is, if I press the S, it'll glide. So let me just do that. Boom, it glides. Okay, but we don't want it to glide no matter what. Okay, I don't want it to do that no matter what. So what I'm going to do here is actually put back in the forever, put back in the if. I'll put an if in here. And I'm going to do an operator because I'm going to compare. I've got the equal sign here. And then let me go back to the data and say flag. If flag equals 1, okay, if flag equals 1, glide to that particular location. Right now, flag equals 0. So if I press S, nothing happens, right? Nothing happens. It's not going because flag doesn't equal 1. And what this does is it's kind of like a safety on your pellet. The pellet won't shoot unless the game is started. Okay, so now let me start the game. So I press the space bar and I've started the game. And now if I press S, boom, it goes. The game is still started. Let me move it back and press S again. It goes. It goes. All right. If I press E to end the game, I've now put the flag back to 0. And if I come and I bring the pellet back and I press S, it won't go anywhere. Okay? All right. So we still do want the pellet to go back to the original location. Okay? And we've got the flag here. I'm going to stop looking at the flag because I don't really need it. Now would be a good chance to take a break, make sure that your flag works and that you cannot shoot unless the flag is set to 1. So 1 means that we've started, 0 means that we've ended. Okay, now we don't always want to glide. Glide doesn't always work for us because we want to be able to move the pellet up and down. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to remove the glide, and I am instead going to change this to, we're going to put a forever in. Where'd my forever go? There you go. We're going to put a forever in, and then we're going to put a motion, and we're going to move to the right. Okay, we're going to move to the right, right? We're going to move in this direction. Well, if I'm moving to the right, that will be the X. Remember, Y is up and down, X is left and right. And I'm moving to the right, which means I'm going to be adding to the X. So let's change this again to change X by 10. Okay. Now we may have to play with this number in a minute to make it go a bit faster, but for now we're okay. So let me press the space bar to get the game started, and then I'll press the S. Okay, that's a little slow. So let's bring it back here. We'll stop. Oh, it's still going. Oh, why is it still going? Because we never stopped this. So what I'll do is I'll stop. Okay. And we'll get to this location. And I'm actually going to change this to 20 because I want it to go a little bit faster. Okay, so spacebar, S. That looks pretty good. That's fast. That'll work for us. Okay, so let me stop. We'll put it back in this location. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some controls to be able to move the pellet up and down because I want it to be able to, if I have something to aim at, I want it to shoot back and forth. I want it to be able to shoot from any point up and down. So what I'll do here is I'll go to control and I'm going to put in another forever. Okay, and then you know how to do this. I'm going to put in an if and I'm going to put a sensing so that I'm going to see if I press the up and down arrow. So the up and down arrow will move the pellet. Okay, so up, and then I will put in a motion. I'm going to move up. So where's my X? We'll go to motion, and I will say change Y by 10. Okay. Now again, I will duplicate this. You guys know. Oops. You know what I'm doing. I'm going to take this. I'm going to duplicate it. Put it in here, and I'm going to say the down arrow, and I'll say minus 10. Okay. So now let me press the space bar, and I can move the pellet up and down. So that's important because if we're tracking something to shoot, like if there's something moving up and down, I need to be able to move the pellet up and down. All right, now if I press the space bar, if I press the S, it'll shoot from down there instead. All right, plus stop, shoot, stop, space, boom. Okay, all right. So I'll give you a second. You can clean that up and make sure that your code works. Okay, now we have a little bit of a problem here. There's a little bit of a break in the code. Okay, so let's watch this again. Let's see if you can figure this out. If I press the space bar and I press the S, boom, it bounces there. What happens if I press the space bar again to start the game again? Didn't do it. If I move this guy back over here, it's still going, right? It's still moving. We don't want that. As soon as it hits the end, we want it to stop. So what I'm going to do here, we can get rid of this glide now. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to have to put in another if. Okay. So the other if I'm going to put in is if, we'll put it here, sensing. And let me put a, where did it go? It's down here. No, where are you? Touching. Okay. So if it's touching the edge, what do I want it to do? Well, I've moved forward. If you're touching the edge, then I want it to stop. Okay. I want it to stop this script. Okay. So what that says is keep moving until you hit the edge. Once you hit the edge, I want you to stop. If I stop, then this S isn't working anymore. So let's give that a try. So let's press the stop here. Let's move ourselves over here. Press the space bar. Move over here. Hit the S. Boom. I've stopped. Now, if I move the bullet back, it's no longer moving. That's very important. Okay. We want the bullets to go. When they hit something, we want them to stop. All right. Good. Okay. So that's an important piece there. We want it to move. We'll press the E. E will stop the game. Let's put a stop all under E as well. Okay. So here's what I have. I've added this stop all here, and I've added this stop script here, and then I've hit a stop all here. Okay. So now, if I run the game, I press space, I press S to shoot, and then E to stop, and everything is stopped. All right. I'll give you a second to get that to work, and then we'll go from there. Okay, now let's try to actually shoot at something. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create another sprite. And I'm going to create, let's change the color here just to make it a little more interesting. And I'm going to make something to shoot at. Okay, so let me make a little box. It's red, let's say it's filled in. And again, remember we're going to stay around this plus. So let's say that. And let's just make sure the center is in the center. That looks great. And we're good. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to have this thing move up and down. That's about it. All right. So let's come back here, and I'm going to change the name of this thing to target. Okay. So what I've done is I've created this little rectangle, and I've named it target. All right. Let's go into the scripts for this guy. Thank you for saving, Mr. Computer. And I'm going to put it over here on the bottom. All right. Just to make life a little bit easier, let's go take some code from the Pellet. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to put it on the Pellet, okay, or on the target. So now the target has the same code. So if the spacebar is pressed, it sets the flag to 1. Okay, we don't need all of that. The flag will be set to 1 by somebody else. We do need a go to, but we need to change it. So let's go down here and go to the go to, because I want it to start in the same position the whole time. Go to. Okay, so it's going to start down there all the time. And the one thing I want you to notice is the X position. So right now it's at minus 170, or at 179. I'm going to change this to 180 just to make life a little bit easier. Okay. All right, so what it's going to do is it's going to start down here, and then I want it to start moving up. Okay. But this is where we're going to use another variable just to make life a little bit interesting. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. we're going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call it moving target y. So look at the big Y, moving target y. And what this will tell us, we're going to use this for, is to tell the target to move up or down. Okay, moving target y. Oh, we made a list. That was a mistake. I didn't want a list. I wanted a moving target y. Okay, that's better. Okay, we want a variable. We'll just we'll delete the list. That was a mistake. So I don't want a list. I want a target. I want a variable. All right. So now when I start, I want the moving target to be minus 10. No, positive 10. I want it positive 10. So what this will do is it's going to add 10 onto the y all the way up to the top. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in my forever. I'm going to go to motion, and I'm going to change the y by moving target y. So if you notice, what's going to happen here is when I press the spacebar and start the game, I'm going to put it in its correct position. I'm going to set it to y, and then I'm going to change the y by that amount. So it's going to change by 10. Okay, so let's watch what happens. So I press the spacebar, it moves up. Boom. Let me do that again. Press the spacebar, boom. Okay. Now we want it to go back down though. We want it to go up and down. So we're going to do that in just a second. Make sure that you have this code working first, and then we'll come back. Okay, so now that you have this code working and your target is moving up and down, we're going to add a control. We're going to add something in here to make it go the other direction. So let's get an if statement and put it in here. And we're going to, again, be looking to see if it touches the edge. So I'm going to get this touching and choose touching edge. If it's touching the edge, I want it to go in the other direction. So what we're going to do here is, if it's touching the edge, we're going to set moving target y to, instead of positive 10, we're going to set it to negative 10. Okay? Oh, excuse me. That's not right. I'm sorry. Well, no, that's okay. Let's see what happens here. This is going to fail eventually, but it'll be kind of fun to watch. Okay? So here's what we're going to do. So let's read through the code just so we understand. It's going to start in a position when I press the spacebar. We're setting the moving target to 10, so it'll move up. Then forever, it's going to add 10 to its particular location. When it touches an edge, it's going to change moving target to minus 10. So let me press the stop. We'll go, and boom, it bounced, and uh-oh, why didn't it keep going down here? Well, when it got down here again, it was still at minus 10. We don't want it at minus 10. We want it back to positive 10. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to, here, we'll stop this. We're going to stop this. And now what we're going to do is we're going to do some math. So we're going to do an operator. Okay. And we're going to take the multiplication. So we're going to take the multiplication in here. And we're going to go back to our data. And we're going to take moving target and put it in here. We're going to multiply minus 1 times moving target. And let's watch what happens. So here's moving target here. Right now it's at minus 10. Let me press the spacebar, and I want you to watch what happens. Keep an eye up here. Boom, 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 boom. Every time it hits, whatever the number is, it's multiplying it by minus 10. And now we've got something that, so when it, I'm sorry, it doesn't multiply by minus 10, it multiplies by minus 1. So if it touches the edge and it's going down minus 10, it'll multiply by 10. It knows to go in the other direction. Okay, good. So we don't need to watch this anymore. Okay, now would be a good chance for you to take a break and make sure that all of your code works. All right, so let me press the spacebar again. We'll start this up, and then let's press the S key to see if that's still working. Okay, I shot, but I missed. What I want you to do now is we're going to figure out how to make it shoot and hit, or what to do if it shoots and hits. Okay, so let me stop this. I'm going to go back to the pellet, and I'm going to have to check to see if things hit. So inside the forever here, I'm going to do one more control, and I'm going to do an if. And inside the if, I'll do a sensing. Is it touching target? And if it's touching target, it needs to do something. What does it do? This is where you're going to get to choose. Do you want to have a score? Do you want to have some sort of announcement? Do you want it to say something? I think I'm just going to have it say hit. Okay. Actually, we'll do something different. We'll say hit for 2 seconds. Okay. All right. So if I touch the target, I say hit for 2 seconds. So let's do this. So let's try it again, and we'll see if I can actually do it. Okay, we'll give it a second, and boom, I missed. Oh no. Okay, so now I have to move it back. I'll cheat a little bit. Let's get right here. Boom, I hit. Okay. Now what I want you to do is I want you to figure out what other things can we do once it hits. Do we need to get a score? Do we need to have things disappear? I don't know. Those are things that I want you to play with over the next couple minutes. We're going to do one more thing, and then we'll take a break, and next week we can make this a little bit more challenging. Okay, so now that you've made it work, and you've made it hit the target and give some sort of feedback, we need to do something. Okay? So right now what I have over here is if touching edge, stop. Right now, the only way to continue playing my game is to have it go back to is to drag it myself and then hope for the best, right? So I'm going over here, I'm trying to hit this thing, and it's pretty hard. Hey, look, I hit it. Way to go, me. We need to make it so it actually does something. So what I'm going to do here, what I mean it actually does something, is that it actually goes back to, so I can shoot again, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, let's duplicate this go-to just for a second. So let me remove all these other things. I'm going to take this go-to, and I'm going to put it right there. So then what ends up happening is if I start the game from the beginning, okay, what will end up happening is when it hits the edge, it's going to go to the other location and stop. The stop is important because I don't want to have it still move. So I'm going to have it go back to the beginning, and then I'm going to have it stop. Okay, so let's press the S, and boom. 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 Okay, so it hits the edge, and it stops there. Now that's fine, but it's a little bit boring, right? It's always going back to the same location. Let's make this a little bit more challenging. So if we go to data, no, it's not in data. Where's operator? There's a square root. What we're looking for is a random number. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say pick random from 1 to something. Now we don't want 1 to something. What I want it to do is I want it to pick a random location here along this plane. I just want it to be somewhere in this particular area, but in a random spot. So if you notice, I move my mouse all the way down to the bottom. It goes from about negative 160 or negative 180 to positive 180. So let's put generally those numbers. Let's put minus 160 to positive 160. And now what I'm going to do is instead of putting it at 7, I'm going to have this random number here. So let me move it over so you can see what I put in here. So it's going to choose a random location on this line to put my bullet in after I shoot. So here, I'll stop the game. I'll press the space bar, and notice that right now it starts right there. If I press the S key, boom, oh, now it's down there. Okay, oh, now it hit. Now it's over there. Now it's over there. Okay, it's in a different location every time. Okay, okay? All right, that's going to be it for today. What I'd like you to do, if you have figured all of this out and you feel comfortable with what you've done, see if you can do a few things. First thing is, can you create some sort of score? Can you also make it so that when I hit the, when I get a hit, let's see if I can actually do it. I'm not very good at this game right now. When I get a hit, instead of just hitting, that it actually disappears. Can you do that? The other thing I would suggest is pellets or bullets don't come out of nowhere. They need some sort of gun. So how do we get a gun to be on here to shoot the pellet? See if you can figure those things out, and then and add those to your game. And then next week we'll add some more. Okay? Thanks.